Good morning, Miss Charlene and Miss Fu Wenhui. My name is Lim Zhen Liang. Today I'm going to present my studio project. For my first project, we are doing a montage for the Chowkit market. From the left side of the picture is presenting the pre-COVID. The condition of the market is very packed and not organized. You can see it actually formed the shape of COVID virus. On the right side is presenting the post-COVID. Everything is organized and not saturated, which is known for the current SOP situation. Next, we are doing the market intervention. Due to the COVID and rules of SOP, we are managed to design a grid system in the market to remind them to produce social distancing. The square structures and grid line on the market is to adhere to the rules of SOP and present the symbol of social distance in the pandemic COVID-19. And move on to my project 2. So here is the introduction of Sentu. The sketch is a conclusion of what I have seen in Sentu. You can see the landmark, which is the funnel, old shops, flower shops, houses and construction all along the Sentu. Sentu is an up and coming location with an increasing number of soaring skyscraper built over the years, but it is also an area filled with a lot of culture and several historical landmarks, apart from the well-known Kuala Lumpur Performing Arts Centre. The issue I've met in Sentu has two. The first is the structure and extension, which known as Mamak, around the Sentu are not well organized and demolished. Also, there are tons of historical trees being cut down for the development of cities. So here is an example. On 2016, you can see there are several of big trees and a mama underneath. On 2019, the trees is being chopped due to the construction, and on 2020, the mama is being removed. So for my urban strategy, I found several spots in Sentu which include mama and historical big trees. What I'm going to do is to have a renovation on the extension structure. The reason I'm doing this is trying to keep the old trees and by keeping the nice food and feeling, but with a safer and more organized environment. And this is the intervention concept and model. The structure is designed according to our project 1, which using grids. And for my first building strategy, I'm doing a tall restaurant on my building. Is to let the people to appreciate the view of the Sentu Park, so they can actually enjoy the view while having their meal. And for my second building strategy, I actually try to separate the restaurants and the markets. It's because to prevent the noise and smell came out from the market, so I actually make a center garden in the middle of the market and the restaurants. And now moving on to project 3. So from my previous building strategy and after some research, I came out with a main program which is market, and I separate the market into dry market, wet market, non-halal market, and also artisans market, and center garden, which I mentioned just now from the building strategy to actually separate the market and the restaurants, a gallery, a distribution center, and Grab pickup point. So this one I will have a details on the master plan, a exhibition hall and retail shop, and also a restaurant. For the concept sketch and model, first I drew out the grid line and separate it into different small proportions, and I changed the angle of the grid line to point to the selected tree which I choose in the site interventions. After that, I did the structure and connection, lastly to filter out the extra line. This is a very good way to start the design, the plan of my building. After that, I start to do the site analysis. So firstly, I do the builds of the site, the circulations, the ambient conditions, and also the open space. So after doing this, I can manage to decide where the building I should put on the site. So this is my draft ground floor plan. So after all the site analysis and concept design, I have decided to place my building on the right side of the Sentul depot. So my building is actually separated into three parts, which is the market, a center garden, and also lastly the restaurants and all the retail shops. So the function of the center garden is actually used to reduce or avoid the smell and noise came out from the market. And the market is separated into a dry market and a wet market. And you can see there's a distribution center, and for the distribution center is actually for the Grab food to come in and pick up the food. So it's more convenient for them to get the foods. And on the right side is mostly the cafe and the restaurants and all the retail shops. And I have designed a street which include all the cafe and restaurants to let the visitors surround by square structure. It is also to have the same language of what I did in my urban strategy, the renovation structure. And also the reason I place my market on the left side is because it can be extended during the MCO. So there's a large area on the Sentul depot, so the market can be extended if needed. And on the first floor, I also separate it into three parts, which is the artisans market, a kids room, and the garden for family together, and also the restaurant. So here is my mock-up model, and you can see this is the mock-up of my building. And when you enter my building, you can see there's a center garden, and on my left side is the market, and on my right side is the restaurant. And on the second photo, you can either enter my building from the entrance or from the Sentul depot and straight reach to the market. On the third photo, as I said just now, this one is there's a big area on the Sentul depot, so it can be extended into a marketplace if needed during the MCO. So, and lastly is a fourth photo is a back of my building. So you can see there's a Grab pickup point on the back and a loading bay, so the trucks can straight come in and reach the back of my building. After I have discussed with my lecturer, I have changed my curve design into straight line by following the axis from my project tool. And also you can see there's a lot of gap in my plan drawing is to follow the routes of the loading bay and Grab pickup point. So I use the same language on my building, follow the grids design at the same time with a new feelings. So once you enter my building, you will reach the center garden and follow to my gallery. And after gallery, you will see a exhibition hall at the back. On the left side, there is a market management office, so it's an office to control the whole market. And also the gap is actually separating the market into three parts. So I make the market into a dry market, a wet market, and also a non-halal market. And at the back side of my building is a market storage. And the reason I place my market on my left side of the building is because this is a very big area in Sentul depot, so it's very good for extension if needed during the MCO. So the stores in the market can be placed on the Sentul depot with a 1.5 meter social distance. And on my right side of the building is mainly for visitors to have their meals and some small shoppings. So it includes the stores, retail shops, cafe, and restaurants. So I want to make the customer to have a feelings in a box structure. And at my back of my building, there's a loading bay, straight reach the storage market, and a lane for motorcycle to go to the distribution center to pick up the food. On my first floor, there's a staircase here. When you enter the first floor, there's a gathering space on the center garden. So it's a very good space for family and friends to spend their time here sitting around this space and following to the exhibition hall. So the exhibition hall is actually a double story. On my left side of the second floor will be a artisans market. So I placed the artisan market here is because I want to make the whole market into one space. And also there's a void in the artisan market, so people can actually have a view of the market while they are shopping in the artisan market. And on the most left part is a rentable showroom. So it's a place for those artists to showcase their arts in this space. And on my right side, there's a bridge connecting the center garden to a restaurant. And here's a bigger picture of my plan. So you can see the first one is the main entrance, a center garden, a gallery, a exhibition hall, washroom, market management office, dry market, wet market, non-halal market, distribution center, market storage, stores, retail shops, cafe, restaurants, and also kitchen. And on my first floor, the first one is a rest area, and the second, the exhibition hall, a washroom, a office, artisans market, rentable showrooms, and number 8 is cafe, a retail shops, a rest area, and lastly a connection in the middle of the center garden and the restaurant building. And this is my front elevation. You can see my whole building is formed by grids, and the right elevations following to rear elevations and left elevations. And this is a sections AA. So you can see the first one is the center garden I mentioned. The second one is the rest area on the top of the center garden. On the third one is office, the artisans market. Downstairs is a dry market, a wet market, a non-halal market, and also the market storage. On the right side is the restaurants and also a retail shops. And section BB, the first one is the exhibition hall, office, artisans market, and also the whole marketplace. This is the perspective of the center garden, and this is another angle of the center garden. This is the perspective of the market. This is the perspective of the cafe street, and this is the whole view of my building. And my presentation will be end now. Thank you.